600 million USD evaporating every day, 37,000 flights cancelled, and a room occupancy rate plummeting to a disastrous 10%. This is not the script of an apocalyptic movie, but the harsh reality currently. Engulfing Dubai. The most magnificent money printing machine in the desert has officially come to a halt as the geopolitical fuse punctures the safe haven bubble when the sky over DXB slams shut. The $100 million skyscrapers and the artificial islands of Palm Jumeirah, once a refuge for the ultra-wealthy, suddenly turned into lonely liquidity traps. The chain reaction collapse from aviation, tourism to real estate, revealing the true nature of a glass city: extremely expensive, but also incredibly fragile. When trust and security are shattered, it's time to wake up from the desert dream and uncover the harsh truth behind this pile of shattered trust. 600 million USD evaporating each day, 37,000 flights were cancelled. The room occupancy rate plummeted to a disastrous 10%. Forget the stunning Instagram photos. What is burning in Dubai right now is not just the skyscrapers, but the entire illusion of a safe haven. On the 28th of February 2026, the geopolitical fuse officially detonated. Looking at the stark reality, the raids breached the defense system, striking directly at the iconic Fairmont, the Palm Hotel, and the port area. The explosion caused for casualties at the $330 million construction site, shattering expensive tempered glass and piercing the illusion of an invincible paradise. Fiery debris rained down, igniting a fire at Geopolitical port and severely damaging the infrastructure of DXB International Airport. Let's be straightforward with each other. Unlike its Persian Gulf neighbors sitting atop endless oil fields, Dubai does not have a financial cushion from natural resources. What does the GDP of this city rely on? Services, transit trade, luxury tourism, and desert plots valued at sky-high prices. All those colossal machines operate based on an implicit contract of trust. Dubai is a neutral, generous, and absolutely safe haven, but when the explosion echoed at Palm Jumeirah, that precious contract vanished into thin air in just a few seconds. A massive psychological shock immediately hit the foreign capital flow. The concept of a safe haven headquarters completely collapsed. Security concerns are turning numerous million-dollar real estate properties into high-risk assets. High-end tourists and multinational corporations immediately activated emergency evacuation procedures. In just the first 48 hours, the citywide booking rate plummeted by a staggering 60%. More than 80,000 bookings were cancelled in the first week. And the exodus of cash has never been so ruthless. You can use money to buy luxury, but you cannot use money to buy complete safety. The ultra-rich once believed that a multi-digit check could withstand all the upheavals of the era. Are they paying the price for that very expensive naivety? Can a consumer paradise continue to exist when its foundation is built on an ever-burning geopolitical fire? What do you think about this? Leave your comments in the section below. But the psychological loss is just the first wave. The real tsunami begins when the main engine of this city stops beating. If we consider Dubai as a living organism, then Dubai International Airport (DXB) is its heartbeat, a massive transit hub connecting the flow of money and people between the West and the East. But right now, that heart is facing a massive heart attack. Look at what is happening in the skies over the Persian Gulf. Widespread GPS jamming and spoofing are turning every commercial flight into a dangerous game of chance. The result is an unprecedented aviation evacuation in history. Air Canada announced the suspension of the Toronto-Dubai route until the end of October 2026. British Airways has cancelled all regional connecting flights until the end of autumn. The giants Lufthansa Group, Singapore Airlines, Cathay Pacific, Finnair, and even ITA Airways all simultaneously turned their backs, sidelining flight schedules to Dubai as if it were a forbidden land. Even the two darlings supporting the local economy, Emirates and Flydubai, had to give in, urgently cutting flight schedules and bringing May's operational capacity down to a mere 53%. More than 37,000 flights were cancelled or forced to be rerouted. Looking at the cold statistics, In the first quarter of 2026, millions of passengers passing through DXB vanished. But the most bitter moment was in March 2026 when passenger traffic through the strategic airport plummeted by a record 66%. What does this mean? This means that the transit passenger base, which sustains 1/3 of luxury retail and short-term services revenue in Dubai, has completely collapsed when aviation insurance skyrockets to unimaginable levels. Each flight departing to this desert is no longer a money-making opportunity, but a financial disaster for airlines. How will a city model designed to live entirely based on global connectivity survive when the door to the skies is tightly locked? Are we living in the twilight of the era of cheap travel and unlimited connectivity? And when airspace is tightly locked down, the disaster doesn't stop at flight routes. It spills onto the ground, directly attacking the heart of the tourism industry. If airlines are the lungs, then luxury tourism is the lavish golden skin enveloping Dubai. But when the glossy paint is stripped away, all that remains are cold and desolate concrete structures. Look at this unprecedented freefall. In February 2026, the hotel occupancy rate in Dubai was still at its peak, around 80%, yet just a few weeks later, this figure plummeted uncontrollably to 20.8%. Moody's Analytics added a chilling forecast. The occupancy rate in Q2 hit a low of 10%. A true state of near closure for luxury accommodation infrastructures. Revenue per available room, RevPAR, plummeted by 31.8%, turning 7-star resorts into graveyards that burn cash on a daily basis. Why is it that even with terrible room discounts, no one wants to come? The bitter reason lies in the Western administrative machinery. The UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office FCDO issued a do not travel advisory, automatically nullifying the validity of many commercial travel insurance contracts. Without insurance, no wealthy traveller or prudent businessman would foolishly set foot in a risky place. The damage figure reached about $600 million evaporating each day from the tourism sector across the region. According to forecasts for the entire year of 2026, revenue evaporated by more than 13%, blowing away a decade's worth of growth efforts. The Dubai authorities immediately panicked. They launched a 1 billion United Arab Emirates dirhams relief package, cut urban fees by 7%, and even initiated the Dubai Invite campaign, giving 3,000 AED, about $816 to residents if they could persuade their relatives to visit. Ironically, a city that once prided itself on hosting the ultra-rich, who spent without a second thought, now has to beg for each customer from Michelin-starred restaurants, luxury car rental services, and yachts to low-wage immigrant workers. The entire luxury supply chain is simultaneously freezing. After all, how much of Dubai's luxury is real value? And how much is just an illusion woven through expensive media campaigns, a lifestyle purely based on extravagant waste? Does it stand a chance against the shocks of the times? What do you think about the nature of this consumer paradise? Leave a comment. But tourism is just the tip of the iceberg. The real collapse is gnawing at the financial foundation of this city, the real estate market. If tourism is the gilded layer, then luxury real estate is the framework supporting all of Dubai's prosperity illusions. But when the cash flow dries up, that framework is turning into a billion-dollar rat trap. Let's look at the telling numbers of the first half of 2026. Housing market sales dropped by 14% to 16% in just 8 weeks after the incident. Real estate prices across the market plummeted by 4% to 7%. The peak of the disaster fell in May 2026. Value Estrat recorded a 19% drop in sales, while Readon reported a total transaction value plummeting by 42%. The worst decline since the COVID-19 pandemic. Optimistic media still cling to the figure of 296 ultra-luxury transactions over 10 million United States dollars. But let's strip away the bare truth. That was just an administrative delay of 4 to 6 weeks for contracts that had been finalized before the explosion. The reality in the secondary market during Q2 is true panic. The owners of villas in Palm Jumeirah or Emirates Hills are gritting their teeth and slashing tens of millions of dollars from asking prices just to escape. But in return, they are met with a terrifying silence from Buyers. This collapse triggers a brutal chain reaction. Airspace closure leads to customer withdrawals. Customer withdrawals lead to the real estate market freezing. The frozen real estate market leads to banks foreclosing on assets. When speculative capital runs dry, off-plan projects, which account for up to 71% of the market, turn into hanging debts. Development corporations are facing the risk of defaulting on their massive construction loans. The vacancy rate in the Central Towers has surged to alarming levels of 30% to 50%, even. The iconic Palm Jumeirah Island has recorded vacancy rates of 20% to 25%. The concept of safe haven assets has officially turned into a liquidity trap, a place where you can easily invest millions of dollars, but have no practical way to withdraw them. Have investors been too naive to confuse a heart speculative market with a sustainable economy? And when the skyscrapers stand empty, who will be the last to foot the bill for this illusion? And the financial freeze is not everything, because this island itself is facing another battle, the battle against nature itself. If geopolitical risks are the fire that burns trust, then the harsh geological nature of the ocean is the poison that is silently destroying Palm Jumeirah from within, a construction hailed as the eighth wonder of the world. Yet it harbors deadly technical flaws. Look at the truth behind the geological report. The entire island is made up of 94 to 120 million cubic meters of dredged sand and millions of tons of rubble, without any concrete or steel reinforcement beneath the reclaimed seabed. InSAR satellite data confirms that the island is naturally sinking by about 5 millimeters each year due to the compression of calcareous sand and the saline Sapka clay layer. More seriously, at the ends of the outer palm branches, the accumulated subsidence has exceeded 30 centimeters, a figure sufficient to tear apart the connecting infrastructures. The waters of the Persian Gulf, with extremely high concentrations of chloride and sulfate ions, are silently seeping in, corroding steel and cracking the concrete of structures that are less than 20 years old. Each year, the raging sea waves erode up to 10 meters of coastline along the palm fronds. The 11-kilometer-long breakwater, once proudly presented as a protective shield, has now turned the inner waters into a stagnant pool, devastating 1.2 square kilometers of coral reef and producing unpleasant odors during the summer. The real disaster lies in the operating cost. The cost of repairing underwater foundations is 3 to 6 times more expensive than repairs on land. Each maintenance cycle for the foundation of a single villa can cost up to $400,000. for 100,000. And guess who pays? Both the developer Nakheel and the Dubai authorities have washed their hands of the responsibility. That enormous burden falls directly on the property owners, with an average elevation of only 3.96 meters above sea level and a single traffic bottleneck. The trunk bridge connecting it to the mainland Palm Jumeirah is the most accurate definition of a glass city. Magnificent, proud, and expensive, but operating at an enormous maintenance cost in the context of a complete collapse of tourism and real estate revenues. Can humans continue to use money to challenge geological laws and the harshness of the ocean? What will happen when the cost of keeping a desert asset from sinking permanently exceeds its own profitability? How much longer do you think this island will last? Please leave a comment below. When physical infrastructure collapses and geopolitical risks loom, the ultra-wealthy have made their final decision. The flow of money from the ultra-rich is colder and more perceptive than anyone else. When the promises of a safe haven evaporate, the only thing they care about is not the government's assurances, but an escape route for their assets. The core reason why tycoons and family offices accept the exorbitant cost to settle in the desert is the absolute guarantee of personal and asset security. But when the geopolitical barriers collapsed, the benefits of a tax haven immediately became meaningless in the face of the risk of total loss. A wave of silent yet brutal flight has been triggered. The flow of money is urgently retreating from Dubai, turning back to more traditional and solid havens like Singapore, Switzerland, Hong Kong, and London. Bitter consequences await those who are slow to act. The liquidity trap in the frozen real estate market has left many tycoons stuck with million-dollar villas and apartments that cannot be sold. They bear the high opportunity cost as their capital remains trapped in the desert, missing countless safe investment opportunities in Western Europe and Southeast Asia. The exodus of VVIP clients dealt a devastating blow to the private banking sector, wealth management services, and luxury retail chains in Dubai. The status of this emirate immediately reversed from a global capital attraction hub to a region exporting risk. The neutral paradise brand built over decades has been severely damaged, a crack that will be extremely difficult to repair in the coming years. This is perhaps the most valuable lesson for the wealthy. No illusory oasis can ever be completely separated from harsh geopolitical reality. Will the money of the ultra-rich ever truly have a homeland? Or are they merely nomads searching for safety? What lessons are there for cities that have risen by attracting hot money but lack depth and a sustainable internal economic foundation? Do you think Dubai can regain the trust of the ultra-wealthy? Please leave your opinion in the comments section. The flight of capital has left a desolate void, pushing the Dubai government into an unprecedented survival dilemma. The chain collapse not only left deserted streets and frozen towers, but also burdened the Dubai authorities with massive debt and an unprecedented survival challenge. Let's look at the stark financial picture. As of the 30th of June 2026, the direct public debt of the Dubai government had reached 111.7 billion AED. Most of this debt was borrowed to finance ultra-luxurious airport infrastructure and large service projects that are now left vacant when airline revenues plummeted by 66% and hotel occupancy rates hit a low of 10%. The financial self-sufficiency of state infrastructure corporations was completely shattered. The government was forced to deplete national reserve funds just to cover the minimum urban operating costs. Emergency stimulus packages and short-term tax exemption policies have proven completely ineffective. The harsh truth is that money cannot immediately repair a shattered contract of trust. Dubai has learned a costly lesson about dependency. An economy that relies solely on image, media, and external connections becomes extremely fragile and vulnerable to the shocks of the modern era. To rebuild, Dubai has no way back. It is forced to intervene diplomatically to restore airspace security while also restructuring the economy. The focus must shift toward technology, digital services, and internal finance instead of relying solely on tourist flows. Dubai will have to accept a period of slow growth, where asset values and urban operating costs return to reality. Dubai has not disappeared, but the dream of an invulnerable paradise island has come to a permanent end. This is a miniature picture of the trade-off between human ambition to conquer nature and the harsh natural and geopolitical laws. Cities built on the desert with borrowed faith will always be the most fragile glass cities. How should we reflect when prosperity is built on the most fragile assumptions of history? After Dubai, how many other artificial paradises around the world will be the next to awaken? Dubai has never been a story of natural development. It is a work of art in global marketing, an architectural masterpiece built on lofty ambitions and an unceasing flow of capital. But when the luxurious neon lights dim and the sound of aircraft engines quiets in the sky, what remains is the starkness of geology and the harsh laws of economics. The 2026 crisis did not just knock down growth indicators or make supercars disappear from the boulevards. It stripped away the greatest illusion of the modern era, the notion that humans can create an absolute oasis untouched by the upheavals of geopolitics and nature. An artificial island can withstand ocean waves with millions of tons of stone, but it cannot resist the corrosion of chemicals and the consolidation of the saline layer beneath. An economy can attract billions of dollars thanks to tax policies, but it cannot retain cash flow when basic security and trust are shaken. Dubai's awakening is not a death knell, but a necessary turning point. This emirate will have to learn to exist not as a fragile luxury playground, but as a true metropolis where value is measured by intrinsic resilience, technological depth, and practical adaptability, rather than flashy records on paper. The skyscrapers still stand, Palm Jumeirah still stretches into the sea, but beneath their foundations lies a timeless lesson for anyone who wants to build an empire on sand, rootless. Prosperity will always be the most beautiful bubble until it bursts. We're living in similar prosperity bubbles within our own economy or personal investment models. When looking back at the entire journey of Dubai, do you think the most valuable lesson lies in geological engineering, economic models, or the psychology of cash flow? The crisis in Dubai is not merely an infrastructure event or a short-term tourism downturn. It is a mirror reflecting the fragility of development models that rely on illusion, media, and excessive external connections without internal depth. When the contract of trust is broken, the price of repairing it is always many times greater than the original cost of building it. Dubai will not disappear, but the lesson of the glass city in the desert will remain a valuable warning for every economy chasing quick prosperity. Are we unintentionally placing our financial security into similar prosperity bubbles through the economy or the real estate markets in which we participate? Looking at the bigger picture of Dubai, which factor do you think is the most dangerous trigger for a city's decline? Geological risks, economic model weaknesses, or the collapse of cash flow psychology? Please leave your comments below and join the discussion. If you found this content useful, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with others to spread in-depth economic and geopolitical perspectives. You can also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss upcoming videos on economics, finance, and geopolitical analysis. Disclaimer: the content of this article is based on analytical sources, aggregated data, and situational assumptions intended for information, research, and discussion purposes. The information, opinions, and data presented do not constitute investment, financial, legal, or trading advice. Readers are solely responsible for their own financial decisions.